All right, Friday morning on the Krug Show. Chase Sr.'s in the house, one of my favorite streams of the week. A lot to get to. Let's go. Off and running on a Friday on the Krug Show. I'm here at Levi's Stadium. As you can tell, the elaborate backdrop that we have. My staff has worked tirelessly to make sure I have a really nice backdrop. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. And it's a big football Friday. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. And look at that. Look at that hat.
Shout out to Anthony.
Anthony Catania sent Chase one of those hats. First of all, Anthony has designed, I don't know if he designed it himself, but it's a great looking lid.
Yeah.
I have the trucker one with it's navy. Yeah, I mean, it's really high quality.
It's got that mesh back.
Yeah, it's got the mesh back. And then you've got the leather like front there, which is really cool. Sharp Corners, Sports Cards, and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Anthony's at 831-521-5264. And he's a great follow on the gram at 831. Our Sharp Corners, 831 on Instagram. And thanks to Anthony for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks to Anthony for sending Chase a beautiful Sharp Corners hat. All right. A lot of stories. Niners and Jags go this week. Who's going to start at quarterback? How are the Niners going to overcome Nick Bosa? How are the Niners 3-0, despite the fact that they're still horrible on special teams, bad in the red zone, all kinds of flaws, yet they're 3-0. And now here come the Jaguars. And a lot of people think this is going to be a tough game. One of the things that I think was really interesting is yesterday in the press conference, Robert Saleh came out and basically said that Liam Coen and some of the coaches that he brought with him on his staff from the Minnesota Vikings are really experts at sign stealing. And he just kind of dropped that little nugget on us. Here is Saleh, and then Coen responds. Let's listen to it first, and then we'll react. Here it is.
Jacksonville, this is a very young, but it's a very talented group. Liam and his staff, coming from a couple of guys coming from Minnesota, they've got legally a really advanced signal stealing type system where they always find a way to put themselves in an advantageous situation. They do a great job with it. They formation you to try to find any nugget they can. So we've got to be great with our signals, and we got to be great with our communication, and to combat some of the tells that we might give on the field. So they're almost elite in that regard. That whole entire tree, from Sean to Kevin O'Connell to all those guys, they all do it. So so there's challenges. They're going to catch us in some situations where they have the advantage, and we just got to play good, sound, fundamental football and do our best to execute them.
Robert, when it comes to the communication, is there any drop-off? Like, was Bosa the more vocal guy on that defensive line in the games, like specifically in games?
I guess into some other stuff there. Okay, so that's what Robert Saleh said. And then Liam Coen was asked about it at the Jaguars presser, and here's his response.
Stealing? Is there any thoughts to that?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak on that fully right now. Have a huge game for us coming up this weekend. Got a great defense that we've got to go and attack, and that's where our whole mindset and mentality is right now.
Were you surprised he went there?
Yeah, again, we're really trying to focus on a darn good defense that we have to go and try to go attack and offensively get better, about us getting better. Putting it together for 4 quarters and trying to create some explosives in the pass game, some of those things that we're, trying to get better at as an offense. And so that's where the focus is right now.
Forgetting his comments, isn't that part of coaching, is trying to figure out whatever tell your opponent has?
Yeah, we have kind of typically, by formation, by game plan, by working really hard as a coaching staff throughout the week, trying to get indicators by your formation, motion, shift, pre-snap, those are the things that you're trying to do as a coach. If you're, trying to put your players in the best position to be successful, whether it's attacking man or zone coverage with your formations, motions, and concepts. So it's a lot of hard work that goes into game planning and trying to put your players in the best position to be successful.
You mentioned the explosives on offense earlier in the week.
All right, there you go. That's some good stuff there. I love the Jacksonville reporters trying to curry favor with the head coach. You surprised he went there?
Yeah.
It's like, but now, before you react, well, give me your reaction. What do you think?
Well, this isn't the Houston Astros stealing signs a few years ago.
Garbage can banging or whatever.
Exactly, when they were doing it illegally. This is not that. And the Jags media corps, for them to kind of say, are you surprised he went there, like it's a dig? This is something that happens a lot. This is something, as Liam Coen said, really good coaching staffs tried to do and implement and study, because you're always looking for an advantage, especially in the game of football where everything is so complex and you're looking for any type of edge that you can get. And so I don't think that Robert Saleh saying that is that big of a deal. There are a lot of coaching staffs across the NFL who will look for telltale signs. They will look for trends. They will look for things that they can find to try to exploit what the opposition does well. And for Robert Saleh, my biggest takeaway with this is high-level stuff. For him to be cognizant of this and understand that this is happening, Larry, this is something that Nick Sorensen would not do. This is something that Nick Sorensen would not notice. And this is why the Niners are in such better hands with Salah at DC as compared to a guy like Nick Sorensen. And it's on all fronts, right? But for me, I look at this as, wow, Robert Saleh is so intelligent. He has such a great feel for what's going on. And he knows that a lot of members of this Kevin O'Connell tree are doing things like this. And so throughout his game plan for the week, he's relaying this to his coaching staff. He's relaying this to his defense, where they have to be on their P's and Q's. They have to be aware of this, because if they don't have things tightened up, they're going to give an indication as to what they might be doing formation-wise, play call-wise to Jacksonville, and then Jacksonville's going to try to take advantage of that. And so this is something that is a battle between two sides and two coaching staffs, and Liam Coen is a really good offensive mind. I mean, when he was at Kentucky, he turned Will Levis into a potential first-round pick. A lot of people don't realize that, and Will Levis last year was the worst starting quarterback in football. He turned Baker Mayfield into, in my eyes, a top 10 MVP candidate last year, where Baker was one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And obviously, Trevor Lawrence isn't off to a great start. I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback. But the Jags are 2-1, and they're 2-1 because this coaching staff has this team a lot more buttoned up than the previous regime with Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson.
If you go to an NFL football game and you sit in the press level, a lot of times it's the same level that the coaching staff sit at, right? And there'll be a couple doors that will say on the outside of the door, absolutely no visitors allowed. Have you seen any of those signs?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely no visitors allowed. That means you're walking into the Eagles coaching booth, or you're walking into the Jaguar or the Niner coaching booth, and they do not allow visitors. Okay, so that's one. Two, in these booths, if you watch, it's not like it's one guy. We're talking about an army of guys.
Yeah.
We're talking about 10 guys, maybe more. So you got 10 guys. And I was one of these guys in the Canadian League and with the Arizona Cardinals. But I was one of these guys in the Canadian League on Kay Stevenson's staff. My job was defensive quality control. So, for example, on the 49ers right now, John Lynch's son, Jake, is the 49ers defensive quality control guy. He's one of, I think they probably have 3 or 4 each. Those guys go sit in the booth during the game. They know the game plan. They were part of putting together the game plan. They know football. They know it on a high level. Some of these guys are future NFL coaches, assistants, or head coaches, maybe future NFL general managers. There's a lot of young, really sharp football guys. What do? What are they all sitting there doing? It's not just a big smorgasbord and everybody's having lunch. They're trying to contribute to the victory. So they all usually have a game day role. And when I was in the Canadian Football League, we had guys, everybody had a game day role. And we probably had 3 or 4 different guys that were in the booth with the binoculars, focused on either their booth or the great Tim Ryan is walking by, their booth or their sideline, and trying to decipher the signals. And a lot of times the signal delivering in football is not meant to be overly secretive. And so it's easy sometimes to pick off signals and tendencies. And the good quality control guys who watch tons and tons and tons of the film will be able to find tendencies that are tells. I found one in the very first time I was up in the booth in the Canadian League in a preseason game. We were playing it was the Sacramento Gold Miners playing the Las Vegas Posse. The Las Vegas Posse had a wide receiver who was a rookie from Florida State named Tamarick Vanover. And Vanover was just really, really talented, but he had, for whatever reason, didn't want to go to school, so he left Florida State. So he was this NFL prospect that was just moonlighting in the Canadian League just because he had nowhere else to play. So he wasn't the sharpest guy, and he would come out of the huddle, and when it was a run play, he'd leave his gloves totally flapping in the wind, and you could see them flapping. And when it was time for him to run a route, he'd get that thing real tight and make sure his gloves were tight, to the point where you knew run or pass based on this guy was cinching up his gloves. And you could see it. And we read that for like over a half before they got to it and adjusted. So there are people whose job, they're making a salary and they're being asked on game day to go, bird dog, as they call it, bird dogging. You just sit there with your binoculars and you talk about it. You have meetings during the week. Hey, this is what we think this sign is. This is what we think the indicator is. This is the guy that we think's delivering it. He's going to deliver it to this guy. It could be this guy. They could use cards. They may do this. They may do that. And then for hours and hours, they would find who the key guys are before the game up there for hours before the game. Then they would find their guys and look for the tells. And so give manpower. They're trying to win. So the sign stealing thing, I think, is just part of the game. And I thought he was almost like Salah was almost like patting him on the back, but he also was like trying to get in his head, like, we're on to you, buddy. We're on to you. So you better sharpen your game. Whatever you're going to do, you better hone it, because it was like Liam Coen was the kid with his hand in the cookie jar there. Didn't he have a very guilty look when he started answering that first question? He's like,
he smirked. He smirked, and he's like, oh, yep, that is what we're doing. But of course, you're going to hear coach speak from him, and he's not going to readily admit that, yeah, this is what we're doing. This is also very similar to like when a pitcher tips pitches. Let's say you have a pitcher, he's a right-hander, right? And he's about to throw a changeup. And when you're changing your grip in the glove, because if you're going fastball, let's say you're throwing a 2-seamer or a 4-seamer, right? You've got your 2 fingers here, right? But if you go changeup, usually you put 3 fingers on the baseball. If you're throwing a circle change, it's something like this. If you see a little bit of a wiggle in the glove because you're changing your hand with how you're holding the ball, you're tipping your pitches, right? And so the other team is going to identify that and say, okay, if he's messing with this glove, a changeup is coming. If the glove is still, usually means a fastball is coming. Like, that's an example of that. And then another thing that comes to mind too, remember when Chip Kelly was the head coach of Oregon? He was really the first coach to do this. If you looked at the sideline, obviously he would have his headset on, he'd have the play sheet. He was the one calling plays. But to his left and to his right, there were all these assistants who were holding up these huge cards and these huge signs, and they were random. It could be a Denny's logo. It could be the Philly Fanatic. It could be a San Francisco Giants logo. Like, it was always very random, right? And his offense would know where to look. There were a couple of guys with different colored wristbands, and they would know where they're looking for the call, for the formation, what Chip Kelly wanted. But he had all these people doing all these different things because he didn't want the other team defensively to steal signs and know what was coming when Chip Kelly was calling these plays. And so this has been done for a long time. Again, it's not anything that's illegal like the Houston Astros, where I do think Jose Altuve was wearing like a buzzer. That's why he hit that walk-off against Aroldis Chapman, and he didn't want anybody to rip his jersey off. He said, oh, it's because I got a tattoo. I didn't want anybody to see it. Bullshit, right? This isn't that. This is something that is being utilized for competitive advantage. And honestly, like, Robert Saleh is just a genius, man. I mean, we're seeing so far what he's doing with this defense. We had an idea, right, that they would be better in week 18. But the fact that they're this far along, playing this well with all these new faces, all these rookies, it's a testament to him as a coach. It's game planning. It's putting players in a position to succeed. It's getting creative with player personnel and how these players are used. It's being creative and exotic with some of your looks, some of your blitzes. It's making adjustments in game and season. And it's stuff like this where he's pointing this out. This is high-level coaching by Robert Saleh, and you got to love it, man.
No question, no question. And I think Salah is going to be one of the real interesting guys to watch in this particular game, because how does he compensate for not having Nick Bosa? Now, we asked him about it this week, and I thought he gave us a little bit of a tell in what he told us. I don't know if it was sign stealing, but as far as at the presser, he did kind of say, hey, you know, and this is what my takeaway was, and I'm not quoting him exactly, but basically it was like, hey, we got a lot of good things going with our defense, so we don't want to change everything and take everybody. You know, we don't want to totally flip our scheme just because we lost Nick.
Yeah.
So I get the feeling they're going to try to keep Yetur Gross-Matos and Mikael Williams inside in that NASCAR package, in that third down turbo package, or whatever they want to call it. And try to find somebody else that could slide in for Nick on first and second down. Now, I think it's probably most likely to be some combination of Yetur Gross-Matos and Sam O. And I think Matt Barrows made the point that Robert Beal, not Trevis Gibson, was called off the practice squad. Now, that was a little bit of a surprise. Why? Because Gibson's the guy who has the 7.5 sack season in his past, and Beal's a guy who's just been a special teamer. But Matty's thought was that Sam O has played a lot of snaps on special teams, and that now Beal was promoted because now he's going to play those snaps on special teams, and Sam O is going to slide into Bosa's role. And that's how they're going to proceed. And I think that's probably right. I think that's probably accurate. I think if it was just like who's a better rusher, I think they would go to Trevis Gibson. But because it's, over Beal, but because they're saying, well, Beal's a really good special teamer and Sam O's the next man up, they'll play Sam O outside on first and second down for Bosa and let Beal take those Sam O special teams reps off his plate. I think that's the way it's going to go. I don't know, but how do you think Salah in 2020 blitzed like 35% of the time?
Right.
And, I was looking at some of the numbers just from the Arizona game. I mean, he had 40, Niners pressure rate dipped from 45% to 28% when Bosa went off the field. So he's got his hands full here. What do you think Salah does to compensate?
Yeah, and, take those numbers with a grain of salt from that Arizona game, because Nick Bosa got hurt so early in that game. And when you're trying to replace a player like Nick Bosa, there's really no replacing him. You can do it in a game because the opposing offense didn't plan for Nick Bosa to not be out there. The big question is, can you survive without him for the rest of the year? And I know a lot of people out there are calling for the Niners to make a trade. They're not going to make a trade in the next week, 2-3 weeks. I think they're going to gauge to see how this Niners defense is playing. And there's going to be a little bit of a long sample size that they experiment with. And then maybe as we get closer to the deadline, that's when they might pounce and try to make a move. But in the meantime, they're going to try to figure things out to see if they can survive without Nick Bosa, if they can continue to play well. And you make a good point that I discussed a lot on the show this week. You're going to have to blitz a little bit more, because on one-on-ones, you don't have a guy in Nick Bosa who's going to be able to win a lot of those reps. I'm interested to see how Bryce Huff plays. He's been awesome to start the year, but it's different when you're Robin as compared to when you're Batman. And he wasn't getting those double teams. Nick Bosa was. Now Bryce Huff's going to get double teamed. And so how does he fare? So all of this goes into it. I think San Francisco's going to have to blitz a little bit more. They did that in 2020. As far as the DVOA numbers, they actually continued to be a pretty good defense without Nick Bosa when he tore his left ACL then, and now he's torn his right ACL now. But the thing with blitzing is you have to pick and choose your spots. You have to be selective. It's going to depend on the down and distance. It's going to depend on the time of the game. It's going to depend on the quarterback that you're going up against. When you're facing Kyler Murray, that's a lot different than when you're facing Trevor Lawrence, right? Because they're two completely different quarterbacks with different skill sets. And obviously Kyler has those quick feet, and he's much more athletic and going to be able to try to improvise and create with his legs as compared to Lawrence, where he's more of that drop back pocket quarterback who's a lot bigger in stature and he can see the field a little bit better. When you do blitz, though, your coverage has to hold up, because if you're sending extra guys to the quarterback, obviously it's a numbers game on that back end, and you don't have as many numbers. The good thing is that Deommodore Lenoir, I think, has been fantastic this year. He's giving up, I think, 11 receiving yards per game. And I always say this, it's good when you're not hearing from a corner a lot throughout games, because that means that they're not giving up big catches, right? Renardo Green has been really good. Upton Stout obviously has had some good moments and some rookie moments, but he made the play of the game last week for the Niners offense to get the ball back on that 3rd and long, fighting until the end of that play to dislodge it out of the hands of Zay Jones. And so this Niners secondary has been good. I like what we've seen from the safety core. You're not going to replace Nick Bosa. That's impossible to do because he's such a special player, but there are things that you can do to absorb the loss of losing him.
Will Tucker says trade JJ in a 3rd and a 4th round pick to the Bengals for Hendrickson. And then we got this guy says, do we really think getting Hendrickson is realistic? What do you think? I mean, I saw Guy Haberman did a sit down with Daniel Jeremiah, and Daniel Jeremiah's like, yeah, maybe a 3rd round pick and a day 3 pick. And it's like, what? Every team in the league would probably be willing to make that trade. Now there's financial elements to this thing, and you probably wouldn't want to trade any draft capital on day 2 if you're not going to sign Hendrickson beyond 2025. But the Niners, I mean, Hendrickson is a really, really special player. What do you think? I mean, do you think they will go after Hendrickson? Do you think they should? What do you think ultimately the price tag is? And do you have a lower cost alternative that you think is as good or better?
I do think the price tag is a little bit higher than what Daniel Jeremiah said, and obviously a good get by friend of the show, Guy Haberman, for getting DJ on the program. I think he's one of the best NFL draft analysts out there for NFL Network and does a fantastic job. But while I think that the value that the Bengals can get back for Hendrickson is lower than it may have been during the offseason, because now it's in season and the value isn't as high. They don't have as much leverage. I still think you might have to give up a 1st round pick or a 2nd round pick. Now, keep in mind that the Cincinnati Bengals are a historically cheap organization. They're one of the worst run organizations in the game. Mike Brown as the owner, just a fraud with how he's run that organization. And players know that too, by the way that he treats them based upon the contracts that he gives out. There was obviously that situation this offseason where Shamar Stewart didn't sign that deal because the Bengals tried to put a clause in there with guaranteed money. And with Hendrickson, he wanted a contract extension. He wanted to stay with Cincinnati. Final year of his deal, no more guaranteed money left on it. The Bengals did not sign him to a contract extension. All they did was up his salary in 2025. So what that tells me, if you're in a relationship, somebody's actions and their words obviously speak volumes. In football, this speaks volumes. Trey Hendrickson is not a part of the Bengals' plans beyond 2025. And let's think about 2025 and beyond, right? The Bengals might be 2-1 right now, but Joe Burrow's not coming back until December. Jake Browning is the quarterback. He stinks. There is no way in my eyes that Cincinnati is a playoff level team, nor do they have a winning record by the time that Burrow comes back in December. And when that happens, I don't think that he's going to come back in a situation where the Bengals can rally to make the playoffs. And so I think the Bengals going into the deadline, once they start losing some games, they could be open to trading Hendrickson, because from a business standpoint, wouldn't you rather get value back and picks back for a player who you'd otherwise lose in free agency for nothing? And so to DJ and what he said with the trade, I think it's higher than that. I think you might have to give up a 1, you might have to give up a 2, but if you were to have traded for Hendrickson in the offseason, the value is definitely higher for a guy who nobody in the NFL has more sacks than him the last 2 years. 17 and a half in 2023, 17 and a half in 2024. He's off to a really good start this year. Now, San Francisco in 2026, speaking of draft compensation, they're in a pretty good spot. You know, right now they have a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third. They have 3/4, 2 of which are slotted compensatory picks and projected. They have a 5th, and then they have a 6 from the Vikings. They also have cap space. They have $25 million in cap room right now. If they want to use some of those picks and that money to trade for Trey Hendrickson. And then lastly, before I throw it back to you, you know, obviously if you trade for Hendrickson, you're probably going to sign him to a contract extension, and it's not going to be cheap. But scheme-wise, even if in 2026 and beyond, you have Hendrickson and a healthy Bosa and Michael Williams, it's not like you have to worry about one of those players being out of the rotation. There will always be snaps available because of what the Niners do on defense. Hendrickson, Bosa, Michael, they can play defensive end and they can play defensive tackle. And so you can always find a way for those players to be on the field at the same time. We know that San Francisco really values their defensive line. And at 3-0 right now, they've shown that they can contend, in my opinion, in the NFC. They lead the league in passing yards per game, and they've played 2 different quarterbacks. They're playing really well defensively. They still have the easiest schedule in the NFL. And so if this pass rush struggles over the next several weeks, I'm all in on Trey Hendrickson. I think he's a fantastic player. He's a good locker room fit. He's a good scheme fit. And obviously you lose an elite player with Bosa, but then you gain one with Hendrickson. And I think he'd really be able to help.
Yeah, I, you know, at first I was like, yeah, you know what? I'd rather go cheaper if I could get like a Will McDonald from the Jets, or if I could get a Kayvon Thibodeau. But the more I think about it, you know, the real value here is also making sure that Colton McKivitz and Trent Williams don't have to block, you know, Trey Hendrickson in Philly.
Yep. Right.
Or Trey Hendrickson
and they just lost Nolan Smith for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And so they're players
for Trey Hendrickson opposite Aiden Hutchinson.
Yep.
You know, I mean, or Trey Hendrickson opposite Micah Parsons. I mean, it's, you know, he's a unique player. The other reason I love it is because, you know what, the real problem the Niners have had with getting other guys from outside organizations is that they've gotten guys who don't play hard. Chase Young dogged it in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
That's so unlike the Niners, but this guy won't be like that. This guy's motor is legendary. So to me, anybody you're going to get, you know, on defense, especially, defense is so much about effort and want and intensity and motor. And it's like, that guy's got to have a crazy motor, and is, you know, it's got to be somebody who's really, to me, I will bring in outside guys who I know play hard, even if they're not great guys. Like if I were the Niners, I'd go after Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You know, I mean, I don't know where he's going to go. Maybe is he going back to Philadelphia? But I mean, he's
he won't.
He is an incredible talent, and the guy can play corner, nickel, free safety, strong safety, weak side linebacker. I mean, the guy can pretty much do it all, and he plays hard. So I would take him, but you know, no more of these guys that Cadillac it or don't play hard, because and that's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys out there that don't play as hard as the Niners play. So that's something that they got to keep in mind. All right. 49er football on the Krug Show this year is presented by Sleeper, fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy, where you choose between 2 to 8 players pregame or live and pick more or less on their projected stats. If you're new to it, use the promo code Larry, Larry, and you'll get 100% deposit match up to $100 on your deposit. Links in the description right there. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, let's get into it. We'll make a quick lineup here.
I think we did pretty
Niners.
damn well last week, by the way.
Oh, I know. We've been killing it.
I think we had Pearsall more than 100 yards. He did that. I think we had McCaffrey receiving yards, and he definitely checked that box. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't we? We had somebody else too? Didn't we have?
Trey McBride touchdown.
Anytime
And
touchdown.
he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns, but he scored one against the Niners, of course.
Yeah, here it is. This is it.
There we go.
We had Trey McBride. Oh, wait. There it is. Trey McBride, more than just anytime touchdown. McCaffrey, 110 all purpose. And then Murray over 28.5 rushing.
Yeah.
That's what
That's
it
good
was.
stuff. So no Pearsall, but 3 for 3.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. All right, let's take a look at this week's Niners Jaguars. Is there anybody that you wanna go with here?
This Jags defense is really legit, at least statistically so far. They haven't played great opponents, but they've been really good. The McCaffrey 44.5 receiving yards is always intriguing to me because they can't run the ball, especially in the red zone. The offensive line hasn't been great. And so they're utilizing him as a receiver. The Niners are leading the NFL in passing yards per game. And so why does that stop? I think it continues.
Yeah, no question. No question. I like that. So let's go with the receiving. Let's go over 44 or more than 44.5 receiving yards for CMC. All right, that's a good one. Let's go Brian Thomas. I just think Brian Thomas is going to bust out.
Has to at some point. He's been awful this year.
62.5 receiving yards or an anytime touchdown. No pass rush. Trevor Lawrence has, they're not going to, he's one of the least sacked quarterbacks all year. I'm going to say over 62.5 for Brian Thomas. More than 62.5. What else do we got? Juwan Jennings may not play. Pearsall, there's Purdy may not. You don't know who's going to play exactly. Let's go Travis Hunter because I think those numbers are probably inflated. Let's go Travis Hunter. What are the yardage looking like on Travis Hunter?
It's got to be under 30, right?
I just think that Travis Hunter, it doesn't play very much. I mean, he's not like one of the guys they really look for. He's only had one start all year. Is that all we got? Is the anytime touchdown? I like no touchdown for Travis Hunter.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I no touchdown there for Travis. One more. How about Pierce? Let's go Brian Robinson. What does Brian Robinson say? Something tells me this is going to be the game that they try to get Brian Robinson going.
All we have is knows the system a little bit better.
Yeah. Do we have yards for Robinson or just the anytime touchdown? I guess just the anytime touchdown. I don't know. That might be two.
McCaffrey has 13 red zone carries for 7 yards this year.
I know. I mentioned that yesterday to Kubiak, and he gave me a look like if looks could kill. I'm like, hey, what's the issue? He's like, we're really close. I'm like, 13 carries for 7 yards for the best running back in football. Either he's not the best running back in football, or your center is not good, or stop.
Well, the center and guard play in the red zone hasn't been great.
Yeah.
Who could have predicted that?
Let's go to DeMarcus Robinson. What are the DeMarcus Robinson angles? I like the DeMarcus Robinson impact this week. Anytime touchdown. Let's go anytime touchdown on DeMarcus. I think he gets in the end zone this week.
Welcome back. Not sure if Jennings is going to play yet.
Yeah, I like that. So let's see what we got. We're going $5 to win $74.60. Ooh, I like that. So we got an anytime touchdown for D-Rob. We got no touchdown for Hunter. McCaffrey with just 45 receiving yards, and Brian Thomas with 63 receiving. I feel great about this.
I like
$5 to win $74.60. Oh, I'm loving that.
Let's go.
That is fantastic. Big thanks to Sleeper. Remember, use code Larry for 100% deposit match up to $100. Links right in the description. Terms apply. Help support the show and gets you rolling on the #1 sports app. A lot of fun. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's get into before we get to the quarterbacks. What do you make of the 49ers 3-0 start? And I bring this up from the standpoint, Chase, of look at all the adversity that they have gone through to be 3-0. The special teams, Brant Boyer's coming in. He's going to turn this special teams unit around. They are not going to be the dregs of the league. And they still are. Their starting field positions the 34-yard line. They're 28th in special teams DVOA. Their special teams has sucked, does suck, continues to suck.
I wonder where that would be if they didn't miss the 2 field goals week 1, because I do feel like they've been a little bit better since then. And I thought Sky Moore gave them juice last week as a return guy.
Then offensive line has to get better. Niners offensive line right now. Niners are the only team in pro football that does not have a rushing touchdown, despite having McCaffrey, who everybody keeps telling us is the best running back. The run block win rate for the Niners O-line is 29th. The stuffed run percentage is 31st. And it's not like they're just this awesome pass blocking line. Their pass blocking win rate is 22nd. So the Niner offensive line, Greg Cosell made the point. He said it's really showing up in the red zone. Through 3 games, CMC has, as you said, 13 carries for 7 yards in the red zone. Now, it's not like, oh, yeah, well, everybody sucks in the red zone. No, wrong. Philly is 8 for 8 in the red zone with 8 touchdowns. The Niners have ranked the third lowest in the NFL in points per red zone trip. So they have the 3rd worst red zone offense going. And now they've lost Nick Bosa. Obviously they've been doing this without Purdy, Kittle, Mustafa, Aiyuk, Jennings. They're banged up. But, how surprised are you that the Niners are 3-0 when you factor in, all those things?
Well, I think that Kyle Shanahan has coached his ass off to start this year. The fact that Mac Jones has played as well as he's played the last 2 games is so impressive. He's been prepared. Against the Saints, he found 8 different receivers. Against the Cardinals, he found 7 different guys. We saw some explosive plays against New Orleans. Then he got the game-winning drive against the Cardinals in week 3. Week 1, Brock Purdy able to flush 2 of the interceptions, and then he went 6 for 6 on the final drive too. And so Kyle Shanahan has really helped to maximize the quarterbacks on this roster. I think San Francisco has done a great job with ball distribution. They've been without George Kittle for much of the year, obviously. He got hurt early week 1 against Seattle. You have had Jawan Jennings in and out of the lineup. Brandon Aiyuk hasn't played yet. This offensive line hasn't been great. Christian McCaffrey in the red zone, 13 carries for 7 yards. You mentioned some of the rushing numbers. It's mostly because the offensive line hasn't played all that well, but they can't run it. Yet, what we've seen offensively, led by Kyle Shanahan, I think has been really impressive. The fact that the Niners lead the NFL in passing yards per game, it's wild, with 2 different quarterbacks, keep in mind. And then on defense, I'm just so amazed by the job that Robert Saleh has done this offseason. I said it so many times on the show that I thought that bringing him back was one of the best additions that any team made all across the league. And I'm talking about free agency, draft, and coaching hirings. The fact that this defense has been this good this early is incredible when you think about how many young players, rookies, and new faces have sizable roles on the defense. They've been generating turnovers. They've been getting after the quarterback. Their focus all offseason was to be better against the run. They've been much better against the run to start this year as compared to last year. Special teams, I do think they've improved despite the bad week 1 from Jake Moody. He's no longer on the team. Eddie Pinheiro, I've called him Eddie Dinero because the guy's been money. And obviously he won the game last week against Arizona. And so I just think that the Niners this year, after this 3-0 start, have played much better complementary football, offense, defense, special teams compared to last year. I think that last year they were so mentally fragile and they were mentally, spiritually, physically broken from the shorter off season, coming off the heartbreaking Super Bowl defeat. They found ways last year to lose all of these games. Niners are finding ways to win these games. They've been clutch in all 3 of them. All of these victories have been by 1 score. They've done it with 2 different quarterbacks. And I think the best is yet to come for this Niners team. You get Kittle back. You add Demarcus Robinson into the mix offensively this week. You get Brandon Aiyuk at some point back. Malik Mustafa is going to play safety, and I think he's one of the top young safeties in the game. I do worry about this offensive line long-term. I worry about Christian McCaffrey being able to stay healthy long-term, but I think fans, and you can feel this, I think with the excitement that I've seen on my channel, with the numbers that I've seen on my channel, yours as well, I think fans are really excited about this team, but it's not just for 2025. I think there's a renewed sense of energy in the building and for this fan base because they know the future now looks bright, because I think San Francisco really crushed these last 2 drafts, which has led to this team having this young juice and this sense of energy and this youth movement that I think is kind of refreshing for a team that's been very veteran laden of late.
What would you do at quarterback this week? Now, it sounds like Purdy's coming back. That's kind of what it sounds like. Kyle Shanahan went on the radio and he basically said, Brock's, feeling better with the toe. And he should, if he continues to trend this way, he should be good for Sunday. Okay. And then, when he was asked about Mac on the radio yesterday, said he's not as ready as Brock health wise. So it's like they're telling us that it's Brock's turn. Brock's been taking all the first reps. So a lot of people feel like that's an indicator. But then when you watch Brock, he still looks a little tender on that toe. And then when you listen to him at the presser, he's like, well, if I can go and this and that, it's Thursday. You know what I mean? It's like, and I don't know. It seems like they're almost playing like this misdirection game here. My ears and all logic and like listening to Shanahan and watching practice, the logic says it's Brock Purdy's going to start. But like when I'm watching Brock Purdy, he looks less like Brock Purdy because that toe looks tender. Then Jones looks less like Jones because of the knee injury he has. And watching Burrow, his prognosis makes me want to be extra, extra careful on the toe. I just think Mac's hot. He's won 2 in a row. You're playing a team that he was on last year. Maybe he's got some vendetta. You'd like to beat them. You're playing again on Thursday night. It's a long freaking year. Your toe injuries are kind of ugly. I don't get, I understand why Brock should want to play because he's a competitor and he doesn't like, I'm sure, watching Mac Jones win games with his football team. But I think somebody's got to convince Purdy that the long range view is in his best interest. Shanahan said 2 to 6 weeks initially was the prognosis. Well, he's been out for 2. Mm-hmm. And suddenly Mac plays well and he wants to get back in there. He's left a lot of passes up high because he can't get that toe down fast enough or with the proper force. And you leave a couple balls high here against a team that has 9 takeaways. They're going to turn into interceptions. I would play Mac Jones. If you made me bet, I would probably wager that it's still like 55-45 Brock playing. But Brock doesn't sound very, very sure that he's going to play. And he doesn't look right. I've seen him airmail a bunch of throws this week. So I'd go with Mac Jones. And I hope Shanahan does, but I don't have a real sense of it. I don't have any sources. What's your vibe on it?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts here. I think to a certain degree, there could be a little bit of gamesmanship going on. The Niners don't want to tip their hand for which quarterback they're going to play. And so they're making Jacksonville have to prepare for both quarterbacks, both Mac Jones and Brock Purdy. But no matter how you slice it up, there are major quarterback question marks for San Francisco going into this game because Mac Jones didn't do a lot at practice on Thursday either. And he re-injured the knee that he hurt back during the second preseason game against the Raiders. And obviously he was in a lot of pain against Arizona. He had the brace on, then he took it off, then he put it back on, and he moved okay in between the lines. But then when he got back to the sideline, he was hobbling and limping a lot. And I think another thing with Purdy too, why he wants to be out there, feels the need to. He just signed that contract extension, $55 million per year. He feels the need to be there for his team so that he feels as though the Niners think that they made a good investment in signing him. The last time that Purdy was on the field, he went 6 for 6 on that final drive. And you make the note of it too. He's such a competitor and he's got some tenacity to him. I mean, we see this with the way that he approaches the game, but the way that he celebrates some of these touchdowns, like he gets fired up. At the podium, he's very soft-spoken, Midwestern guy from Arizona too, a little bit laid back. And so he's very easy going in front of the microphone, but you get him in between the lines and he's got that competitive fire to him. I do think the Niners have to be careful here. San Francisco dodged a bullet with Purdy only being out for this timeline, whereas Joe Burrow had a more severe turf toe injury. He has to get surgery. He's out until December, and that ruined the entire Bengals 2025 season after they paid Burrow, paid T. Higgins, and paid Jamar Chase. And so you don't want to run into that type of situation. Now, the Niners backup situation at quarterback is much better than Cincinnati's. Mac Jones over Jake Browning any day. And I think that Mac Jones has played stellar the last 2 games. I think that he's revived his career. The Patriots and Jags left him for dead. Nobody wanted him. Kyle Shanahan saw something in him, and Shanahan deserves credit for bringing in a guy who he really liked in the pre-draft process. As far as the game planning goes and Purdy, this is a Jags team that does have 9 takeaways in 3 games. That includes 7 picks. And so if Purdy's out there and he can't run, he can't escape pressure behind a bad offensive line, and he's leaving balls high, like you said, that's a concern. When you win the turnover margin at the NFL level, you win about 80% of the time. And this has been a Jags defense up until this point that has been a great team as far as generating turnovers. Also, this has been a legitimate defense. They're number 2 in EPA per play. They have those 9 takeaways in 3 games, 7 picks. They had 9 takeaways all of 2024. Josh Hines-Allen has a 14.1% pressure rate. He's at one edge. Then you have Trayvon Walker on the other side. Cornerback Jordan Lewis having a really good year. He has 2 picks and a fumble recovery. They're 6th in points per game, 10th in yards per game allowed. And so I think Kyle Shanahan should go with the healthier quarterback. Who's healthier? In turn, who gives you a better chance to win? That's what I'm rolling with. But the injury status of both up in the air, and these are big quarterback questions going into a sneaky big game and sneaky good game in my estimation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long year. It's a long year. And you know, one thing I don't think is good for a football team, it doesn't matter what the vibe is or what the pecking order is, but it's just not good to juggle guys all year. You know, oh, this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy. What if you go back to Brock and he doesn't play well?
Yeah.
And then what? And then what are you going to pull him out and say, well, you know, he it's not that he's playing badly, it's just that he's still hurt. You know what I mean? So then you got this awkwardness, and is he hurt? Is he not? Is it about performance? Is it not? Who's playing better? I don't think you want to introduce that. I would stay very deliberate. Brock was out. He's got the toe. You know, you got your 2-0 with Jones. You got a winnable game against his former team at home. I'd roll him out there again and just take my chances. Another big topic that we have to hit, and we're getting towards the end of the show, but we'll make it our big finish topic. I've got really 2 things I want to throw your way, but we'll throw this out there. Are brought to you by our good friends at Habbas Law. Today's show sponsored by Habbas Law. Omar Habbas and his son Tarek are great guys, and they're great sponsors of the Krug Show. If you need a great lawyer, you need someone in your corner, call the lawyers that the insurance companies are hoping you never call, and that's Habbas Law. They will fight to make it right. Visit habbaslaw.com on the web. Thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. John Lynch said Brandon Aiyuk is not close to returning. Not close to returning.
Yep.
You know, I don't typically do this and play other people's videos. I have played your videos before, but I'm going to play Grant's take on this because Grant's take is unlike any other take. And you tell me what you think of this. Now, I love Grant, so I'm not bashing Grant, but I don't necessarily agree with this take, but it's interesting. Listen to this.
This is weird. John Lynch went on the radio this morning and said that Brandon Aiyuk is, quote, not close to returning. This, even though we've seen Brandon Aiyuk running around before games, at practice, running full speed, running routes. He looks like he's close to returning. It's been about a year since he tore his ACL, and after this upcoming game on Sunday, he will be eligible to come off the PUP list. I think it was always assumed that he would be like opening his practice window sometime around week 6 and then making his season debut sometime around week 8 or 9 to be conservative. And that would be right before the trade deadline. I think that's important. You got to remember that the Niners tried to trade Brandon Aiyuk this past offseason when he couldn't even walk. That's how freaking motivated they were to not pay him another dime. They were unsuccessful. I think they were surprised that there wasn't a market for him. But if they can get him back on the field for a game or two, just to show people that he can really move around and still be himself, I think they'll try to trade him.
Now, there was more to that, but just for the sake of, we basically got the gist of it. What do you think? I mean, do you think, that would be dramatic. That would be a huge thing for sure if all of a sudden they decided they were going to trade Brandon Aiyuk. What do you think? You think Grant's onto something there that they're going to try to get him healthy and potentially trade him before the deadline? I was actually thinking that it was going to be like Thanksgiving or maybe, December before he was back. And depending on how the season's going, they may want to just shut him down for 2026 and kind of do right by him, since they do have a sizable investment in this player. It's like the team has a vested interest in seeing him not have a recurring injury. But he's also adding the wrinkle of maybe they're going to try to get him healthy, shop him, and move him all in a couple weeks' time, which would be a dramatic story for sure. What do you think of it, Chase? I don't know if I would agree with it, but it's definitely thought-provoking.
Oh, for sure. And look, I'm friends with Grant too, and I have mad respect for what he's built with his own brand on YouTube. I think he does a great job. And believe it or not, in 2025, we as people are allowed to disagree with people, in case anybody didn't know that. All right. So look, I disagree with Grant. Now, he did make some fair points, right? The 49ers have tried to trade Brandon Aiyuk before. Right. They did try to trade him, according to reports earlier this offseason. Brandon Aiyuk pretty much said as much with the social media posts that the Niners were looking to move on from him when he wasn't feeling good and couldn't even walk. But I didn't take that away from what John Lynch said. I just think that this comes down to Brandon Aiyuk not being ready and not being healthy enough. And there are always differences with these knee injuries, right? Like Stephon Diggs and Brandon Aiyuk both had knee injuries last year, right? And people are wondering, wait, Stephon Diggs was able to return for week 1 and he tore his ACL in the same neighborhood as Brandon Aiyuk as far as the time frame. Why was he able to come back but BA can't? Well,
different bodies.
Stephon Diggs, different bodies, but Stephon Diggs had a clean tear of his ACL. A lot of people don't realize how bad this Brandon Aiyuk injury was. I mean, when we saw the video of it and the play against Kansas City, it looked awful, but the injury was awful. He injured his ACL, MCL, and meniscus. That's as bad of a knee injury as you could have suffered. With a player like Nick Bosa, his ACL as clean as it got, right? And obviously the sideline tests, they weren't sure if he tore it originally. Bosa knew all along that he tore his ACL, but his recovery is going to be different than Aiyuk's because it's a clean tear of the ACL. But also Bosa had that same ACL operated on back in 2015 when he was a high school senior. So everybody's body, to your point, is different, but every injury is different. And Aiyuk, ACL, MCL, meniscus. That's why he's probably not going to come back within a year as far as the timeline goes. And that's fine. Now, do the Niners after this year look to trade BA? Potentially. Ricky Pearsall has emerged into a guy who looks like a damn good wide receiver. He could be a number 1 guy. DeMarcus Robinson is under contract again. Jawan Jennings, maybe you sign him to a cheaper deal. You get rid of Aiyuk, and those costs are able to offset. And then you get cheaper with Jawan Jennings. Do you like Jordan Watkins? Do you like Jacob Cowing as a young receiver on this team? Shoot, I'll tell you what. Kendrick Bourne has played some winning football the last 2 weeks, and I want him to be a part of this wide receiver rotation because he was kind of the Jawan Jennings guy before Jawan Jennings, and now he's brought that type of edge and swagger back to the receiver room. So I don't think this is John Lynch saying or indicating that we're going to trade Aiyuk this year or that the Niners want to. But I think maybe after this offseason, if they were to visit that, depending on how Aiyuk looks and if there's a team that is in need of a wide receiver, maybe that transpires. But I didn't take that from John Lynch's comments.
Yeah, I mean, at one point in time, they loved Aiyuk. So is that love affair over? I don't know. But interesting commentary there from Grant. And it does make you think, would they consider, is he reading this right? Would they consider moving Aiyuk, at the deadline? Wow, that would be a dramatic move. I want to share the screen on 2 poll questions that I threw out to Niner fans on X. One was this one. I said the 49ers are 3-0 mostly due to, and I gave the options as CMC, Robert Saleh, a soft schedule, or their quarterback play. What would you vote for? Robert Saleh is winning at 66.3%. The soft schedule is 21.7%. And then CMC only 6.4. Quarterback play only got 5.6. I would probably say it's their quarterback play. I really believe that Brock played well in week 1. I think Mac has played very well in the last 2 weeks. And I think that it looks like when you're getting really good quarterback play, it just looks like, oh, you should always get really good quarterback play, but that's not the way it works. So I kind of think the fans are missing the boat on this one, but they're saying Salah all the way. Where are you on this?
I would go Salah just because of how well this defense has played and how ahead of the curve they are and some of the strides that we've seen from these rookies. Michael Williams looking good the last 2 weeks. He has 9 pressures the last 2 games. Marquise Siegel has been really good. An underrated play in that game against Arizona was when he came up from that safety spot on first down to stop Kyler Murray for a gain of 1. And then the Cardinals set the punt shortly thereafter. Upton Stout has had some really good moments. Alfred Collins, CJ West getting a little bit better. So I think Robert Saleh has been the reason, or at least the most impressive person in the Niners operation so far. But the quarterback play has been stellar. I mean, they lead the league in passing yards per game with 2 different quarterbacks, and we've seen 2 game-winning drives from 2 different quarterbacks. Brock Purdy week 1, Mac Jones in week 3. So I would go Salah, and then closely behind that, quarterback play for sure.
Yeah. And then the second question was, what is the Niners' most pressing issue? And, there's a lot of them here. They lack pass rush, even without Bosa. Even with Bosa, they lack pass rush. Now they really do. Their offensive line is 29th in run block win rate. Their red zone offense is 3rd worst in the NFL. Gosh, these are all last year's issues. And then their special teams are horrible. Again, 28th ranked special teams DVOA. And what's really disappointing is that the red zone, the O-line, and the special teams were all major, and the pass rush. They didn't get a sack in the last 6 games. These were all the offseason on the to-do list. Is it possible that they didn't do enough of their to-do list in the offseason?
Well, I think there are 2 things there that are related. It's the offensive line not being good enough, and that has led to the red zone offense struggling because the Niners can't run the ball.
Right.
For those who are just joining the show, Christian McCaffrey has 13 red zone carries for 7 yards. And when you can't run the ball in the red area, it's a problem. They don't have a rushing touchdown yet this year. And Kyle Shanahan is known for his outside zone rushing scheme. So I think it's the offensive line and the inability to run it are issues right now. And then obviously we'll see without Nick Bosa how the pass rush fares over the next few weeks.
If you ran Travis Hunter's career, how would you utilize him?
Better corner than a wide receiver.
I agree. I'd play him at corner and play him as a specialty player on offense solely. Yeah. I mean, why would I throw it to Travis Hunter when I can throw it to Brian Thomas?
Yeah, I would use him like Dion was used. Dion was used primarily as a corner, and then from time to time, they'd put him out there as a gadget guy or a weapon on offense where you'd run a reverse, you'd run an easy little bubble screen to him and let him use his speed and athleticism. just when I watched Travis Hunter at Colorado, obviously he was a good playmaker at wideout, but he's kind of in the build of like a Deshaun Jackson, but he's not as fast. He's really small and wiry. At corner, I thought he was elite. He was not, to me, an elite wide receiver. And I just disagreed with the Jags strategy of trading all of that to move up for Travis Hunter. Like him as a player, I don't think he's going to be like the Shohei Ohtani type of impact guy as far as two-way. I think he's a better corner than a wideout.
You can watch 2 games all weekend in the NFL. Obviously, the Thursday night game's already in the books. Seahawks beat the Cardinals, covered my 1.5, most importantly.
Nice.
But what do you think? If you this is a great, there's some great matchups this weekend. I mean, you really do have some good ones. I think Chargers against the Giants, Jackson Dart making his first start, division rivals that are both 0-3. That game's going to be hotly contested.
Yeah.
Colts, Rams, I think could be good. I think this Jags Niner game could be good. You got Ravens, Chiefs at Arrowhead, and the Ravens are favored. Packers, Cowboys in Dallas. Bengals, Broncos on Monday night. What if you get 2 games you can watch this weekend?
Man,
Pro games. What are you going to watch?
Baltimore, KC, because one of those teams is going to be 1-3 if they don't tie, which is crazy. I like the storylines and the drama of Green Bay, Dallas, but I think Green Bay, they win pretty handily, but obviously Micah Parsons going back to Jerry World. If that game gets ugly, I think you could really see Cowboys fans revolt at the stadium that Jerry Jones built. And so I do like the storylines coming out of that one.
Eagles Bucks, though.
Eagles Bucks is a really good one.
That's
the
a
real
good
field
matchup.
temp's going to be 103 degrees. It's kind of a competitive advantage for Tampa Bay. I think Baker Mayfield's been a top 10 quarterback the last 2 years. I think the Eagles offense finally got it together in that second half. Does that carry over after that stunning win over the Rams? I just think that's a really high level football game. I think that's the best football game between the 2 best teams this week. So let me go Eagles Bucks and let me go Ravens Chiefs as my 2.
One super before we bolt for the door. We got this one.
And then the college slate, Larry, is ridiculous.
Oh, I didn't even look at the college slate.
Oh, the college slate is unbelievable.
What's your favorite college game this weekend? You got
Probably
Florida
Penn
State, Virginia. TCU, Arizona State tonight is actually pretty good.
Yep. You got Alabama, Georgia as well.
Which is always good.
Illinois early tomorrow morning. I mean, it's actually crazy how loaded the college slate is.
Ohio State up in Seattle against UW.
Sneaky big game. Yeah.
LSU, Ole Miss. Oh my God, there's some bad blood there.
Yeah.
Isn't like Lane Kiffin's daughter dating the LSU linebacker?
He is, yeah.
That's incredible. Auburn A&M. Auburn, I'll say this too. Auburn has a tackle. His name's Xavier Chaplin. That might be the Niners' first round pick next year.
Okay.
Go check out Xavier Chaplin. Niner fan 57 says, what does he say? If you've covered it yet, but see you saying Brock isn't playing, isn't the best cure for turf toe rest? Why is he practicing? Well, he's obviously feeling better.
Yeah.
And he looks a little bit better, but to me, he just looks like a guy who has a little bit of a tender toe.
Yeah.
Now I know that, so that's what I'm seeing, but I feel like you can see him. He's a little, putting his foot down on the ground, a little softer, a little slower, a little less pounding on it, but he doesn't look the same. And the ball, he's leaving some balls up high. I know he badly wants to play, but if Brock Purdy plays and they win this game and he has a recurrence of this turf toe and he's out 6 weeks, the Niners are in a really, really bad spot where if Mac Jones plays and they win this game and he has more of a knee injury and he's going to miss a month, they're not nearly in as bad a spot. They got Brock coming back on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
They're 3-0 with their backup quarterback, and I think they're looking pretty good. So I don't know. That would be my barometer. I also really believe that it's hard to win in the NFL. And when a guy's got the hot hand, ride it, especially it's regular season NFL. I mean, if Brock was like, oh, if there was going to be like some gigantic quarterback controversy if you let Mac play, then I get it. Put Brock back in there. But it's not. There's not going to be a huge quarterback controversy. Jones has been so he literally said on the podium last week, Chase, hey, I hope Brock gets back this week. I mean,
he's like, that's one of my best friends on the team. I can't wait for him to come back.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll say this, I think the quarterback vibe in their room is awesome because Brock wants to win so bad that he's sharing with the other guys. And when the guy who has all the info is sharing, then the vibe's good. And you got 3 really willing students there in Rourke, Adrian Martinez, and you got Jones who wants to salvage his career. I almost get the feeling if the Niners, now maybe, I don't know, we'll leave you with this one. Tell me what you think of this. I think if the Niners went to Jones right now and said, here's a 3-year, $30 million deal to be the backup here for the next 3 years, do you think he would say no because he wants to be a starter, or would he say yes because he wants some stability within his football life?
Speaking of Jones, Granson Jones in the comment section, Chase is a 49ers hater. I guess you didn't watch the show today when I just called them a contender in the NFC. As far as Mac Jones,
there you go.
Segue. As far as Mac Jones,
it's the only Granson I know.
As far as Mac Jones, I think he wants to play out the remainder of his contract this year, next year. And let's say Purdy gets hurt. Don't want this to happen, but let's say he does get hurt, right? And Mac just continues to play like he has the last 2 games. I think he works himself to a point where he'll have an opportunity to start somewhere else. Now, I think he'll be very selective with where he goes because he's seen what can happen with bad coaching staffs with New England and with Jacksonville. And so he'd want to go somewhere where he might have familiarity with the OC, or he knows that OC is good for him, or he's a good scheme fit. But I think that he loves where he is right now. I think that his career was dead. It's very much alive now. He's revitalized and revived his career. But I think the competitor in him knows that after next year, if he can start, he's going to want to start.
Fozzie drops this one. He says, great show, gents. If I see you at the game tonight, Larry, I will come and say, what's up? That's
you got to show the hat, Larry.
That's right. Look at this. Here it is. Northgate going up against Menlo. Todd Husak's Menlo JVs coming out to Walnut Creek. Menlo's a highfalutin area. Not that Walnut Creek's not, but Menlo's like, circular driveways and everybody's got $10 million in the bank. So I just want to remind Husak that if you get out of your car in Walnut Creek and somebody says, hand me the keys, that's not a valet. All right. That's not a valet. Just letting you know, we don't have valet parking at our football games. But Northgate against Menlo, something's got to give. 4:30 in the Creek. That's West Coast time. 7:30 back east. Anyway, Chase, great to see you, man. Tell people what you got planned. Obviously, you got the watch party on Sunday for the game. Tell people about what you got cooking between now and Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, another comment saying I just do this for a check. I mean, I don't work 7 days a week during the football season to just do this for a check. I do it because I have a lot of passion. And so when you watch me on the Niners Report, I bring a lot of passion. My goal is to always give people insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking coverage. And so we do that with long-form shows every single day. Went live yesterday on Thursday, going live again on Sunday for our watch party. And a lot of people like to say it's the best place to experience a Niners game day fan-wise outside of being at the actual game. So be out on the lookout for that. And then obviously in the lead up to kickoff, putting out a lot of long-form videos every single day and oftentimes multiple times a day.
Dude, you're fantastic, man. Keep it rolling. Always love streaming with you. Thanks to Sleeper. Thanks to Habbas Law. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Great looking hat, Anthony. Thanks to Claudaddy Arcades. And of course, last but certainly not least, thanks to Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. That's going to do it. Big Friday, the rest of the day. We got Shanahan with the presser. I got practice. I got high school football. I got Niners Nightly. Johnny Dells is going to stop by tonight talking football. We'll watch a little film, maybe some college football, maybe some barbecuing. Man, life is good. Chase, have a great one. Appreciate all you guys. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get